Count number one, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder of a peace officer in the performance of his duties.
Eric Knysz, guilty. Justice 6 months after State Police Trooper Paul Butterfield was shot in the head during a traffic stop in Mason County.
Of course, this verdict is not a shock. The jury heard 2 recordings during the trial where Knysz admitted to shooting Butterfield. It took the jury just 90 minutes to come to a decision.
Tonight, our team coverage continues. Tom Hillen has reaction from Trooper Butterfield's fiancée and others who knew him. We'll get to that in a moment, but first we want to go to Leon Hendricks, the only reporter talking with Knysz's father.
This is a case where there really are no winners. Trooper Butterfield's family will never see him again, and a 20-year-old is headed to prison for the rest of his life. A 20-year-old whose father says he would never have done this had it not been for the fact that he was taking drugs. There was some talk about that in court, drugs that Knysz may have used and possibly abused in relation to an injury he sustained in an accident. It's not clear what, if any, impact that had on the shooting, but Eric's father thinks it had everything to do with it and is the reason his son was out of character and committed this crime. Knysz's father says today he was hoping for a miracle in court for a not guilty verdict, but was not surprised that his son was convicted on all counts. He offered condolences to Trooper Butterfield's family, but at the same time dealt with his own grief, the fact that he'll only see his son from here on out in prison.
Through this, do you feel like justice was done here?
Justice was done, but you're talking about a 19-year-old boy that was on drugs. I do believe he did it wrong, severely wrong, and he should be punished for it. But taking a 19-year-old boy and putting him in prison for the rest of his life I don't think that's the answer. If you dreamt up a nightmare, you couldn't dream one up like this. It's just unbelievable. I stopped by Trooper Butterfield's at the site and said a little prayer for him. I wanted to drive through there. I wanted to say goodbye.
John Knysz is a former policeman. He says he was treated remarkably well considering the circumstances of this case. Eric is John's only living son. He'll be sentenced to the rest of his life in prison in April. I'm Leon Hendricks, 24-Hour News 8.
And our team coverage continues tonight with 24-Hour News 8's Tom Hillen joining us now in studio with how Trooper Butterfield's fiancée and friends reacted to today's verdict. Tom?
Well, this case was obviously very difficult for the family to go through, but also for those involved in the prosecution and investigation itself because of just how well-liked Trooper Paul Butterfield was.
Guilty of first-degree murder.
It's a bittersweet ending.
Mason County Sheriff Kim Cole, a close friend of Butterfield's, arrived on the shooting scene just minutes after it happened last fall. He sat by his side, praying as paramedics tried to save him.
I wish that night had never happened, but we can't change what's happened, and this is the best outcome we could have asked for.
He says today's verdict came as no surprise to him, and he's more than happy to see Eric Knysz behind bars for the rest of his life.
It's not hard for me to see him go to prison at all. He made a direct attack on all the good things our country stands for when he murdered a police officer. And so I don't feel the least bit sorry for him.
This trial was personal for Mason County Prosecutor Paul Spagnola. He, too, knew Trooper Butterfield.
Paul was a terrific law enforcement officer. He did great work, and it was important for me to be able to stand up today in front of a jury and tell them what kind of person he was and how good a job that he did.
We also heard from Trooper Butterfield's fiancée, saying the verdict is only a piece of the puzzle of her healing heart.
But I still go home and I still grieve, and I still try to pick up the pieces of my life.
Even with the case finally coming to an end, the prosecutor says today is not a day for celebration.
There is no elation today because we lost a trooper. This is not a happy day. This is a day to see that justice was done.
As this trial comes to a close, Eric Knysz's mother has yet to stand trial. She is accused of helping Eric and his wife Sarah steal a car that the young couple used to get away after shooting Trooper Butterfield. She is set to stand trial in May.
Tom Hillen, thank you. And our coverage of the verdict continues right now on woodtv.com. You can listen to the murder confessions Eric Knysz made to investigators in the days after the killing and click through a photo gallery of the trial.